We are live now, and Dr. Saima is going to be joining us very soon. But before she starts, let me go over what we are going to discuss today. I'm very excited talking about finances. It is such an important topic that we need to discuss, and we are very shy. When we talk about money, we shy away from it. So Saima is like gives you financially savvy tips, and it's like how important it is for women to be financially independent. She also wrote this journal, and okay, so Saima is here. What's
Hey.
Assalamualaikum. How are you?
Walaikum salam. I'm good. I've never done this before.
I
um,
know, I
uh,
know. Yeah. This is my third time, I'll
yeah,
say. So I'm still learning, like nuts and bolts of going
yeah.
live.
It's good. It's good. It's nice. It's easier, I
How
think.
are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Alhamdulillah. How are you doing?
I'm good. So I was just sharing this wealthy Muslim woman journal, and I was just
Thank
talking
you.
about that. Of course, you can go over. I just introduced it. So I would like you to start with telling me what does this journal entail, and I will share the empty pages because I've started filling it, so I don't want to share my filling pages. But I'll
Yeah,
show you, and you can tell
yeah.
you can go over what
Cool.
why is this something as mindful like this is good to start with?
Yeah. So one of the biggest secrets that I discovered literally 4 or 5 years ago is journaling. Journaling can literally change your life. A lot of the time, what happens in our lives is we are either living in, about worried about the future, like what's going to happen tomorrow, and that's where we are, or we are thinking about the past, all the regrets we have, what we've done, and we neglect to live to be just present, be where we are right now. And once I discovered how useful journaling was with that, what journaling does is we call it thought download. It's just writing down everything that's coming to your mind. So get up in the morning, take 5 minutes out, and just write down everything that comes up. It doesn't have to be grammatically correct. It doesn't have to make any sense, but just write down all the thoughts that are coming to your mind. And for brain, that's like you got a lot of work done. It's like your brain can
Yeah.
stop thinking about that stuff now. It thinks all those things are accomplished, and now it can really focus on what to do next or what to plan next. And it really helps on focusing. And then once you put the worries down, and sometimes it's like, why am I even thinking about this? Why is this even occurring to me? And it's something you may be obsessing about in your mind day out and day in. So I became obsessed with journaling. And then I was going out and buying all different type of journals, and I didn't feel like any of them fit what I wanted. So I wanted something where I could track my habits. So I want to improve my salat timing. I want to improve my eating habits. I want to focus on going to the gym. I want to be able to manage my finances. And what was happening was I was buying like so many different type of journals and so many different books. And I was like,
Yeah.
I need to combine all these into one. And that's how this journal came about. I just started writing what I would want on a daily basis at my hand, at my side table, somewhere I could put all my passwords, logins. That's something I'm forgetting always. So that's how this journal came about, and I just created it and I just published it as well.
Yeah, and can I just share the one thing I love, so everything else is definitely like very organized. But what I love is that you give a lot of space for what I am grateful for. And I don't know for everyone, but for me, if I'm only coming up with one thing that I'm grateful for, I almost feel guilty that am I really only grateful for one thing? So like I start like thinking more and filling it with more. And I know I shared with you my gratitude journal when we first met. And I am big on gratitude journals. So I am very grateful that you gave me time today.
No, thank
Really,
you.
it is like I feel like money is something we all want, but everyone feels guilty talking about it. We don't want to admit it, how important it is for us. So let's talk about why do we, like when I say we, women specifically, why do women feel so guilty when we talk about money, abundance of money, or getting like finding ways to get money?
Yeah. I think answering that is a lot easier than why we shouldn't be guilty thinking about money and wanting money, because society just puts a lot of pressure, like from the time you are going to school and you say, oh, I want to be this career because this makes more money. And everybody's like, oh, don't just look at money. Money is not everything that you should be looking at. You need
Yeah.
to focus on other things. So you're discouraged from even looking at careers that are high paying and from very young age. And
Yeah.
especially women, like, oh, your husband will take care of it, your brother will take care of it. But the way to change that is we need to look at what money is. So we have a lot of thoughts about money. Money is good, money is bad, money, money turns people into evil, money does, it starts war, money does this. But what exactly is money? Money is just a tool. Money by itself doesn't do anything bad. You could have a dollar sitting on a table. It's not going to go do good or bad things on its own. It's just a dollar. It's just, or a lot of times it's just a number on the screen. So what exactly is money? Money is just a tool that we as a society, we as a human being have decided to give value to. And we have decided that for $5, in paper, it's paper that grows on tree. For the $5 bill that you show me, I'm going to give you this much value back. And before this, it was goods that we were trading, right? Before we discovered how to use money, we were using, I had eggs and you had butter, and we're going to decide
Yeah.
that I need butter. I'm going to give you eggs. I have more of eggs. You give me butter. So that's how we were exchanging value. We didn't think eggs were bad or, the meat was bad. It was just, I had something of it, you had something of it, and we decided to trade it and exchange it. And that's how we decided to come up with money. We decided that as a society, we're going to construct something, it's silver, it's paper, and we're gonna decide that this has this much value. If somebody comes from, like, an alien comes and visits us and they see us exchanging like paper for and buying stuff, that may seem odd to them,
Yeah.
right? Like, what is this?
True.
So money by itself is nothing good or bad. It's what we as a we are like conditioned into giving it value and thinking about it that creates the problem. So the thought is what we
Yeah.
need to change. Money is neutral by itself. Money is just a paper by itself.
Absolutely, absolutely. But and it is it's and I remember, like, you and I, like, like informally talked about this before. But being financially independent is very important for women, especially in like, especially with this inflation going on. So why do you do you think that for women it is important to be financially independent?
It's for anybody, right? For men and women. I don't know, like, we've come to the age where women are working outside, they are contributing to society. Even before then, when we were working on the farms, if you look at back in the day with our grandparents, it was the women who were working the fields and growing the crops and then selling the crops and really contributing a lot financially to the family. And now somehow it's become a problem where women shouldn't have to do this. And it becomes a huge problem when you are put on the spot. So there are unfortunate circumstances of if you're married and your husband is diagnosed with a terminal illness, or if you're married and you end up getting a divorce, or if you never get married and you are on your own, or you don't have a male figure who's going to be there to protect you and to take care of everything. And those scenarios can change very quickly for anybody. So everybody should be proficient and independent at whatever skill they can learn. If you can learn to, change a tire by yourself and you're driving and you need to do that by yourself, you should be able to do that by yourself. And money is way more important. Like, money is, we use it for everything, right? To buy food,
Yeah.
to buy roof over our head, to buy utilities. You can't even buy the basic necessity of water, like clean
Yeah.
water to drink,
Absolutely.
or even oxygen. If you're sick and you need to be hospitalized, you have to pay for health insurance. You have to pay if you're in a different country. You're gonna probably have to pay out of pocket before a doctor even sees you and provides you with oxygen. So for basic,
Absolutely.
you need money for like the basic necessities, and money is a good thing. Money can help with all that. Money is not bad.
Yeah,
Money is
and
not
I
evil.
also feel like Saima, when we as women are financially independent, it just gives us another, like, a new sense of confidence. Like, we feel good about ourselves, that that, like, the ability to be able to support myself is like a confidence automatically.
Of course, yeah. Especially when you're living here and you are able to get a job and you're able to provide, then
Mm-hmm.
in circumstances where you're put in a bad circumstance, you're not going to tolerate that, and you're going to be able to lift yourself out of that as well.
And we have a lot of capable women who are like, in fact, like, if we look at the academics, women are usually like, like academically savvy. So we have a lot of, yes, I love money and both. Thank you, Sana. So we have a lot of competent women staying at home, taking care of children, which is again like very important. I have like huge respect for women who are stay at home mothers, but how can they become financially independent without sacrificing on the things that they have to do?
Yeah. So the example I saw in my home growing up was my dad went to work, but when he came home, he gave the money to my mom, and she was the one managing it. She was the one going for groceries. She's the one, taking the kids out. She's the one who's building the houses. She's the one who's saving the money for the kids for their emergencies and their needs. So stay-at-home mom doesn't mean that you're not financially competent and you shouldn't have to worry about money. You can learn all the skills more than our parents probably could, more than our moms could, because they didn't have, if they were not educated, they didn't have that skill to go out and
Mhm.
learn to invest in bigger sense, like in a stock market or other real estate. But a lot of women have done amazing things, even when they were stay-at-home moms, like invested in, I have aunts who stay-at-home moms, but they bought stores, they helped their husbands run gas stations and other things. So that doesn't change that aspect that because you're a stay-at-home mom that you can just forget and not worry about how to take the next step.
Exactly. And like, like religiously too, like we know that, like if you are a Muslim woman, you're like, you can get paid for breastfeeding, it's like things like those.
Yes.
But I always encourage women that you don't have to have a business. You don't have
Yeah.
to be actively working. Asking for pocket money is not wrong, but like, I think mainly important thing is finding smart ways to do the savings and multiply your money while staying at home. And I am like horrible when it comes to investing or knowing, but like budgeting. Budgeting gives me, I would say, like, palpitations. I like whenever I have to do them, and it's not the math, it's just the fact that I have to think about everything. That just really becomes very overwhelming. So, Sama, I know in your podcast you talk all about ways to invest in future. It's like, stocks. You talk about so many things, and I feel like I need a week with you just to learn everything that you have to say. So can you go over how can we learn basics of budgeting, finances, investing?
Yeah, so it's all very simple. The first thing you need to learn to do is pay yourself first, no matter how small it is, even if it's 10 cents, even if it's $10. Once you learn to pay yourself first, and what that means is not using that money and going and buying something shiny. A lot of times, what happens is it all comes from our thoughts about money, that we are afraid that we're not going to be able to manage money. And what ends up happening is we end up losing that money. As soon as we get the money, we're like, we have to spend it somewhere and we have to go buy the next shiny thing and we have to do this because we're so uncomfortable with just having money, just holding on to it and just accepting it for having it. So that's the biggest first thing we need to do is just accepting money for what it is. If it's, bill that you're getting, just holding on to it and just accepting it for what it is. Not planning what you're going to do next with it, not thinking about what you're going to buy with it, just having money, just having it. And then how can you make that money do more work for you by making more money for you? So not spending it and losing the value. So if I get $100 and I go buy a bag, that money's gone, and what I've exchanged for that is a bag that I'll probably lose again. Whereas if I invest that money, even if you buy a car usually depreciates value the moment you drive it off the lot. So but when you save money and invest it, that money is growing for you. You put it in a place where it's gonna work for you and make more money for you. That's how the rich do it. They don't work for money; they make their money work for them. So one of the great aspects of investing is the stock market, which I like to focus on. It's been there for the last 3, 4 centuries, and it's been shown like a great progress of rate of return of about 10% over its lifetime. So just getting money, saving some for you, and investing it, and just letting it be, just letting it grow for you. That's the first thing that we need to learn to do with money. And then we can learn other things like insurance, so like protecting yourself, so car insurance, health insurance, house insurance, all those
Yeah.
disability insurance if you're working. Those things are very important. Same for your kids, if you can try to provide them with a better future or more financially more secure than we were, that's another aspect. Saving for your retirement. A lot of times, IRS doesn't trust us with our money. So when we get a check, IRS has already taken out their share because they know
Exactly.
by the time we file for our taxes, and if they're waiting to collect, we'll have spent all that money. But they have allowed us loopholes where, loopholes is like retirement accounts where we can save money before IRS takes it out. So those are huge, and we need to take advantage of those that our income will be decreased by that amount that we're saving in our retirement accounts. And then that money is going for us until we need it.
Yeah, and like Sarma, so I remember that 2 years ago when, like in the middle of the pandemic, I took some money out of my savings and I decided to play with the stocks. 2 years now, like 2 years later, I think I have lost about 75% of that money.
So the first thing you said is play with stocks. So stocks is not something you play with. So stock market has become a lot safer and a lot better. So the way it used to be is before the internet, before telephones, is somebody would be sitting on Wall Street, and if I wanted to buy a stock, I would call that brokerage, and by the time I hooked up to them, it was probably, the price probably had shifted and changed, and I may or may not be able to catch that price. And then even when I find out if the market is going up or down, it like days would have passed by the time I get my newspaper the next day. And, and a lot of times what you were able to do is buy one share of a company. And usually it's really hard to do that. So let's say back in the 90s, you're investing and you're starting off and you had the option of investing in AOL or investing in Google. You're going to know who's going to do well, right? AOL was the thing of our days. Yahoo was the thing of our days.
Yeah.
We saw all the commercials and everything. Blockbuster was the thing where you could
Oh my God.
where you
Yeah.
could go and get a DVD and just come home and watch it. We didn't think Netflix was going to come out and you just click of a button, you're able to watch all the movies. So as average person, for us, it's really hard to assess who's going to be the next Google and who's going to be the next AOL.
Or Amazon,
or Amazon. If you had invested just like $1,000 in Amazon back in the 90s, you would be a multimillionaire today. But what has changed a lot for the average folks and made it easier for us to invest is mutual funds and ETFs. So mutual funds are a group of stocks. So instead of investing in a company, two companies, you buy top 500 companies. You buy the whole stock market. It's a group. There's only like 3,000 companies that trade that are US traded on the stock market. It's not that huge of a group, but we don't know which is going to be the next high earning or which is going to fall off. And by investing in mutual funds and ETFs, we reduce that risk. We don't have to calculate that risk out. We know on average the return will be 10%. It may go down over the next year or 2 years, but over the long run, it's going to go up, and it's been going up and up since forever. So that's the way to do it. We cannot go with fear or hype. So, Bitcoin is a huge hype recently. The stocks were like a huge hype during the pandemic where that GameStop, people were playing around with that, and that went like so high. But stock market is not for gambling. Stock market is not for playing around. Stock market is something that we need to learn to be comfortable with, and then let our money ride the highs and lows. So it's not, so we have to change our thought on how we look at it and how we invest. So not gambling, not playing, but investing.
You're right. Not gambling, not playing. That's like, those are the key words. So before I go ahead, I the team said that I also think that once you take money issues out of a marriage, you can build a relationship on a different level and judge your spouse for what they have to offer in a relationship. And that's absolutely true. It's, I think even when people are talking about prospects of marriages, the one basic thing is, what does the guy do? Or, what is the education of the guy or the girl? So these are I think it's like a very foundational pillar. But is there a way to take the money out of a relationship?
Honestly, I think we have to build our relationships where these things are not a force that messes with the relationship. Like you're gonna have a lot of changes in a relationship when you're living with somebody for a long time. You have to be able to share money, and you have to be able to share your thoughts about money, and not be like, this is mine, this is yours, and we're gonna separate it. But take it as something that you can both use to grow together instead of fighting it, but not
Yeah.
take it out completely.
Yeah. And I think that that is something that, you'll have to learn eventually, like, what works for your relationship.
Yeah.
And then Jessica says,
Yeah.
I think she said it because of, like, when I said I lost 75% of money. So she said, what should we do? Should we leave it? So Jessica, I haven't sold any of those stocks yet. I am still holding on to them, hoping that, like one day some magic will happen and one of them will go up. So what do you think, Sama?
It really depends on where your money is, right? I only invest in individual stocks, like couple of companies that I love, that I buy from, and that I use on a daily basis. I don't do individual stocks otherwise, and I don't recommend them on a general basis. I think mutual funds is the way to go. It has made our life easier. Warren Buffett is like the one person who's done really, really well in stock market. And all he does is goes in his office at 8, 9 o'clock, and he reads company sheets and newspapers. And that's what all he does every day when he's in the office until 5 o'clock. So he's studying individual companies to death. We have kids, we have jobs, we have other things to do. So we don't have that time to study individual stocks. So I
Yeah.
recommend just completely avoiding them.
Okay. Okay. I think that's a great advice. And I think I need to talk to you about that later.
Sure.
Okay. And
And
Sana said that, you have a very thorough course about money and life insurance. And so, like, without going into like, like thick of life insurance, can you tell us, like, like Jessica said, what life insurance would you recommend, term or whole life?
yeah.
And also, how do you tell those people who think like, life insurance is like, just like not a thing to do? Like,
Yeah.
how do you go by that?
Islam is very Islam like educates us on protecting our families even when we're not there, right? We should have a plan. It encourages us estate planning, writing a will. Even if you have a little thing to leave behind for your family, you shouldn't let a night or 2 nights pass without making a plan for it on how you want to distribute it. And especially if you have young kids, and if something happens to you and they'll need to be taken
Mhm.
care of, I think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would want you to plan something for them so they're protected financially versus ending up on the streets. I don't think that's something
Yeah,
that's
I agree.
yeah. So life insurance is very important, and financially looking at investment wise, term insurance is good enough. You don't necessarily need whole life insurance. So the major difference is whole life insurance is for whole life, but the return on that is very low. So let's say you put the money into the whole life insurance, that money is being taken and usually invested in bonds. So bonds are usually offered by the government or by other state securities. So that money is not lost overall. So it's more protected money. However, the growth on that will be low. So it's like 3 to 4% on average versus 10% with the stock market. Because the stock market is going to go up and down, and you should be ready to ride those waves. But life insurance wise term is good enough. Usually you need it about 20, 30 years by the time your kids will be grown up, where they're financially independent and they're able to take care of themselves,
Hmm.
or you've saved enough where you don't need to leave them a whole life insurance policy. So financially,
Okay.
just investment wise speaking, you don't necessarily need whole life insurance. It's much more expensive and the growth is much slower. Whereas if you take the same amount of money that you're putting in a whole life insurance, instead invested in a mutual fund, you'll have more growth and more savings. But at the same time, term life insurance is good. It's usually cheaper, like usually 20, 30, $40 a month for a $1 million, $2 million policy. And you can have a peace of mind for the next, 10, 20 years that if something happens to you, your kids will be okay. And both
That is good advice.
yeah, and both stay-at-home mom and working parent and stay-at-home parent need the insurance, because how is the working
Mhm.
parent gonna take care of the whole kids? Because they'll need to hire a nanny, they'll need to hire some
Yeah.
other resources, so they'll need help there as well. The expenses will go up when you don't have a stay-at-home parent there. So they both need life insurance.
True. I think this is great advice. So Simon, tell us about your course and like what do you go over during your course? Because for someone like me who gets overwhelmed with the finances thing, who who really is always struggling where to start from, and I have asked this several times, but go over your course. But let me just go over this one. I have a pension now and taking it out of the system. Do you recommend I roll it into a Roth IRA or something else? That's a good question.
Yeah, it depends. It depends on where it is and what it's invested in. So whenever I had old insurance, old 401ks that I decided to roll over into my solo 401k, some of them I left because they were invested in a good place and the expenses were really low. So you need to look at what the expenses involved are at the old plan and where the money is invested and what the return has been with IRAs versus Roth IRAs. So Roth IRA is you pay tax beforehand. So there's two types of investments. So one is Roth. Roth is some money that has paid tax already. So when you turn 60, 65, that growth that money has had, you don't pay any tax on it at that time. So you are taking the money out and it's considered tax free. Whereas regular IRA or regular 401ks is tax deferred. So you are not paying tax on that money now. This is usually a good option for people who have high income while they're working. And then when they're going to retire, most likely most of our income will decrease when we retire. So you're paying low taxes anyway when you're retired. So you are paying tax. You're not paying tax now, but when you retire, the income that you take out, it'll be taxed. So those are two ways to look at it. And if your current is in a 401k where it's tax deferred, and if you transfer it into Roth IRA, you may have a huge tax bill this year. So be careful with what you decide to do. Just speak with an accountant. Versus if you have your own employment, you have your own job. If you can, I recommend creating a solo 401k rather than a regular IRA or Roth IRA and transfer money into that. But again, it depends on the income levels and how much there is and where the investments are.
Okay, and do you want to answer this next question? Do you discuss the FIC on stocks and life insurances in your course?
Yeah, so we talk about what makes investment halal. So some things are very obvious. So like no gambling, no investing in companies that sell alcohol, no investing in companies that do gambling and other things. So those things are easy to cover. And what a lot of it does get complicated, and what a lot of scholars have ended up doing is setting percentage on companies. So let's say Walmart. If you go to Walmart, Walmart does sell alcohol, but what percentage of their profit or income comes from alcohol? And it's a very small percentage. So what scholars have done is said, okay, 5%, if that company deals with 5% of alcohol trading, it's still permissible to invest in them, because then a lot of times Muslims would not be able to invest in any company because a lot of companies do have those options, or investing in tech companies. So like majority of the companies that make up the S&P 500 index are tech companies. So they're the Google, they're the Microsoft, Facebook, Tesla. So these are the companies that make up majority of the, and they're usually very well vetted. There are also other type of mutual funds that are more environmentally friendly. So people choose to invest in them, that they're not investing in, a mill in China where they're making a lot of use of a lot of child labor. So, or damaging the environment in somehow. So there are also environmentally friendly mutual funds as well that are out there. So we do discuss a lot of that as well.
Okay. So now I know I promised you that I'm going to keep it under 20 minutes, but can we really keep it under 20 minutes when we are talking about money? It's like our lives revolve around money. Yeah. So let's talk about how can we get into your course, and like is there any prior knowledge that are there any prerequisites that we need in order to get to a course like that?
No, so honestly, money is very, very simple, and it just takes maybe an hour, 2 hours to plan everything out and put everything in automation where you can forget about it and start living your life instead of thinking about what you're doing with your money. It's just made to look complicated because there's a lot of people making a lot of money off of us by making it look complicated with credit cards, with other things. So money itself is very simple, and I've tried to simplify it as much as I can. So it's 6 modules, and the first module just focuses on the money mindset because that's what holds people back a lot of the time.
Absolutely.
80% of it is mindset, and only 20% is actual knowledge. I can tell you, like, go open up a brokerage account and go put this much money in, and it would only take you, that takes like 5 minutes or less. But changing the mindset where you're comfortable with doing things, that's what takes a lot of work. So I have one of my students who's very smart, very knowledgeable. She's read all the books that are out there on money, on everything. And we were talking about estate planning and her, like, getting her wills done and everything done. And unfortunately, what kept coming up for her is, oh my God, I'm going to die and my kids will be alone. So we had to work on that mindset, death, and death is certain. And that's something that's going to happen. And what condition do we want to leave for our loved ones behind us? So even though she has all the knowledge that she needs to make sure that she gets her estate planning done and sets up trust for her kids and everything, but that little aspect is a huge aspect, but that's what was holding her back from taking the next step. So we worked a lot. We worked a lot on that, on getting that done. So the first is only on mindset, and then we go start talking about what money is and the terminology like bull market, bear market. When you hear those things, what does it mean? And then we talk about what mutual fund is, what individual stocks are, and how to see what's a good company, bad company. Like I want people to have the knowledge, and then they make the decision themselves on what's working best for them. And then I also have a module on like the protecting yourself. So like prenuptial agreements is very important for all these successful women. Postnuptial agreements. I have so many friends, successful, physicians, other careers who are ending up paying like thousands of dollars in child support and thousands of dollars in alimony to their exes when the marriage breaks down. So talking about those aspects, disability insurance, life insurance, and then of course budget at the end. And my workbook that comes, it also has emergency planning at the end. So if something happens to you, God forbid, where is everything? What are the passwords? How can people get all the information that they need to make the next planning, your funeral planning, everything is like covered from front to back. Kids accounts, like investing in educational accounts.
Yeah.
So I try to make it comprehensive but simple.
That's perfect. So if you after I upload this on my Instagram, if you can include the link of how to get to your course. And everyone who doesn't know, Saima is a neurologist, and neurosurgeon,
neurologist.
Yeah, neurologist. And Saima, follow Saima at Wealthy Muslim Women. I will tag her on my profile as well, and then you can follow her, and there is a link on her profile where you can get to her course. And Saima, I am definitely interested. I was sold 2 months ago. I think I just need to put that into action, mindset.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me. And if anybody else has any question, they will either post it on the comments or they can follow you and ask those questions themselves.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful week.
You
Take care.
Bye. Take care.
Okay. Bye.